So, good evening, everyone. My name is Matthew Allen, and I'm going to be giving you your demonstration this evening on our health and safety software. Now, some of you may have came to my demonstration last week, and as you know, such as the week before, we start off with a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is just to go through a couple of things before we jump into the software. So it's nice and quick, shouldn't take any more than a minute. But firstly, as you can read, what health and safety documents you're legally obliged to produce. Here we go. Number 2, Company Health and Safety Policy, Health and Safety at Work Act 1974. Every employer, by law, with 5 or more employees must prepare and update as necessary. Luxury of the software is, and I'll show you a couple of lines from it later on, actually in a few minutes. We have one of these stated for you. If you have one already, if you have one written out, have a look at ours. If there's anything in ours that you think, oh, Christ, that would be nice to put in yours, steal it if you own the software. Why not? Number 2, risk assessments, management of health and safety at work regulation 1999. Every employer is required to carry out risk assessments and record if 5 or more employees. So quite self-explanatory that really. You need to make sure that you have your risk assessments just in case anything can or will go wrong. The unfortunate thing about risk assessments is usually from somebody's stupidity, really. So we've got quite a few quite obscure ones in there, everything from slipping on bird poo on a roof because somebody's done that, all the way through to eating cement. So that's another one right there. So sadly, look at your peers, folks. Someone's ate cement in the past. COVID-19 risk assessments are still legally required. By law, all firms with 5 or more employees must record their COVID-19 risk assessments. COSH assessments, control of substances hazardous to health regulations, COSH 2002. No work can be carried out without the relevant risk COSH assessment, and we have those in there. You can also add in chemicals as well. I'll show you how to add those in as well, just in case you are having to make any concoctions on site, such as if you're going to be doing a GRP roof, there's a lot of hazardous substances going on there, so we want to make sure that you've got the right documentation for that. Accidents and incidents, reporting accidents, incidents, diseases and dangerous occurrences is a legal requirement. Enforcing authorities use the recorded info to investigate or advise best practice. Pre-construction information, construction, CDM, okay, regulations 2015, information required by designers, contractors, principal designers, and principal contractors. Construction phase management plan, so again, CDM regulation 2015, every project requires a document outlining how health and safety will be managed, no matter how small. So if you have, essentially, best way to look at it, if you have the intention of doing any work on any sites, you need one. Okay. What you'll be shown today, Health and Safety Expert analyzing an extension project. No, we won't. Okay, ignore this first one. I'm going to go through what I feel that it's going to be more necessary to you as business owners. The software matching the relevant documents to the job details, the premium version allocating the documents to each job phase. And finally, attendee discount. If you like what you see, there's a 10% discount on health and safety outright purchases if you buy within 7 days of this event. If you want to go with the subscription instead, we can add on additional months instead. Okay, we don't really do a financial discount of the subscriptions, but we can add on additional months, usually anywhere between 2 and 3, most likely 3. Okay, so you're looking at 15 months instead of 12. All right, so Health and Safety Expert. So hopefully on this page you can see Health and Safety Expert 2021. Don't worry, even though we are in 2022, it is the 2022 version. All right, it's just because we haven't just updated this logo. It will be updated in the next month or so. Okay, so don't worry, the documentation is all up to date. Before I jump into anything when it comes to our health and safety software, does anybody have any questions? There is an option on the right hand side to be able to just type in your questions, click them out. Okay, I'm more than happy to stop and start. All right, I think it makes for a better demonstration, if I'm totally honest. All right, so ask away all the way through. I will leave it a moment, see if you want to type anything, and then we can just shoot straight into it. All right, okay, let's crack on into it. So Health and Safety Expert. As everybody knows, health and safety is a lot of That's writing at the end of the day, but we've done a lot of that writing for you with this software. We've helped you out a hell of a lot working with CDM specialists, health and safety regulators as well. We've contacted the HSE to make sure that all of our documentation is up to standard as well, and they have to check our information to make sure that they will, well, everything is legal, really. So we have a standard we have to keep up to. Now, you can use this software one of three ways, really. You can use it for your own company, not using Estimator Express. You can use it for your own company using Estimator Express, or you can use it as a service for other health and safety companies if you want to take on that responsibility. Okay, now, firstly, even though I said we're not going to be going through an extension per se, I'll show you how the Estimator Express import works. So what would happen here is you would click Estimator Express import. You would then find a relevant job. I'm just going to go for this renovation. And what you can see here is that the software has picked up all the building calculators that you've used within Estimator Express. Okay, this is for those that actually already own Estimator Express, if this is making sense. If this isn't making sense to anybody else, sorry. So as you can see, it's picked up demolition, drains, erecting the scaffolding, external decoration, flat roof structures, flat roof waterproofing, internal decorations, masonry shells, plastering, roof structures, and that's it for this particular renovation that we were doing. Okay, so you can see that's pulled that information in. What you would then do is you would then click next, and it would start up the job for you, and it will give you the relevant risks and cost items that go with that, including selecting, say that this flat roof waterproofing was GRP, or the GRP relevant cost assessments. Creating it from scratch, however, what we're going to do is we're going to go up to the top and we're going to go new project. So then I can start selecting, right, okay, then all types of works. It really doesn't mean that I have to go with anything specific. We've then got apartment builds, apartment refits, basements, bungalows, conservatories, extensions, garages, and the list goes on. All right, the reason why we have these in there is because you can click that and it's just a nice straight how do you do. The thing is, selecting extension is going to give you risks and cost assessments that are predominantly dealt with extensions, which I think takes out the actual catalogue of risk assessments and cost sheets that we have for you to be able to see how many we actually do have. Okay, so I'm just going to go with all types of building work. And as you can see, it selects every build phase imaginable. All right. Next, give the project a name. I'm just going to give this webinar 3. Click finish. And then we can crack on from here. All right, so let's just pull this on. We've got that loading screen. Everything's nice and quick. All right, and then what we can do is we can then go into our health and safety documentation. Okay, let's bear with it one more second. There we go. Perfect. So firstly, the information that you're seeing right in front of you. You've got the project name, what we've just typed in, project reference. We can type in whatever we want. I'm not going to type too much in here. Health and safety webinar. Brilliant. And then what we can then do is go on to our clients, our site addresses, our building companies, health and safety director, principal designer, principal contractor, who the default risk assessor is, who have you selected to be on site to do that, usually a site manager. Okay, and then which HSE are you going to be using? Now, client and site address, that's usually pulled in automatically if you have already done something within Estimator Express. Okay, so everything you've already got in there, all the client details, that's going to be pulled across for you. Going to save you a little bit of typing. If not, what you can then do is you can go client. You can click the drop-down box. If you've got somebody already, you can select them if you're doing a second job or a third job. Or you can click this little blue icon on the right-hand side. And what we can then do is we can add somebody new. You can click these 3 dots, and now we have a title, a first name, middle name, and last name. And then I can go Mrs. Julia Stern. Why not? We've got Miss Julia Stern there. Job title, company. We can then put her telephone number in there, mobile, email, website, where she lives, and so on and so forth. And then we can tell the software where she's relevant to. Okay, so that could be clients, contractors, designers, because this can actually be used. I wouldn't say a CRM system, okay, but what it can be used as is something to store all of your guys' information on, so you then can use that nice and quickly with your risk assessments, or if you just need to reference them very quickly, turn on the health and safety software, you've got it in there. It has been discussed within the company to have something like this within Estimator Express, which I think would work quite well. So you can have all of your guys' information in your estimating software. All right, because I've worked on site. My old man was a builder as well. Every time I saw his phone, it was an absolute mess on the screen. So it's quite hard to remember your guys' names and their numbers. And sometimes your screen doesn't work as well. So having to transfer that information across can be quite handy, but I digress. Okay, so click OK. Client, select the client. Brilliant. Click OK. But we have Mrs. Julia Stern there, and her information is going to come up on all the relevant information going forward. All right. Similarly, with the site address, I can select, I'm just going to have it tick to where our office is. Okay. Building company, it's going to be my building company, HBXL. Health and Safety Director, that's going to be me. Principal Designer, again, there's no point in showing you all of this all the time. Okay. But you just go in, you would create these people throughout. Principal Contractor, Default Risk Assessor, because I'm doing everything on this job, it seems. And then we've got the HSE as well. Now, with the HSE, I'm going to click this option, and we've got Nottingham, Edinburgh, Cardiff, Aberdeen, Norwich, Crewe, Bristol, and Plymouth as an example, because I've used these in previous demonstrations. However, what we can do here is we can clear them all, which is, yep, nope, okay. And then what we can do is we can click Browse Contacts on the right-hand side, and then we have every HSE in the UK in here. So I could just go to Kent, for example, click OK, and then we have HSE Kent, International House, Dover Place, Ashford, Kent, TN231HU. All right, and that information is always updated by us. Every time that you turn on health and safety software, it's going to have the most recent update to it. Okay, so no matter what, you're always going to be running the latest version of this software. Okay. Unlike Estimator Express, for example, where you would have to click download prices to get the latest prices. Okay, so this one does it automatically for you as long as you're connected to the internet. Over on the right-hand side, we then have the logo. This is something that you can clear. You can browse your own logo. You can bring whatever you would like in. Okay, so that way then it's going to be on top of your documentation all the time. This is where you can actually become a service and just swap out images every time. Just makes your life a little bit easier. Then beneath there, we then have all the relevant links to health and safety, the HSE pages on the website. So if you wanted to know how and what the responsibilities and duties for various roles were declared by the HSE, you can just click this button. And then what it will do is it will take you to that relevant page on the HSE website. Okay, so all of the information that you will see transferred through our software is direct from the HSE. Okay. From here, we then go on to, say, the health and safety policy. Like I said, this isn't something you're going to do every job, all right? Probably going to do once, okay? And then we even tell you how often you have to update it as well, okay? So firstly, the introduction. We then have Part A, Part B, and Part C, which is health and safety policy statement. We've then got responsibilities and duties, and then we've got the arrangements for health and safety. So a company employing 5 or more persons has a legal duty to prepare a written health and safety policy. Policy documents are the most effective means of demonstrating management commitment and support with regard to health and safety. Okay, now I'm not going to read everything. God, we'd be here all day. All right, but as you can see, Part A makes a statement or general declaration based on your obligations under the Health and Safety Work Act. Part B explains organization and the chain of responsibility. And Part C deals with the arrangements that have been made. All right, reviewing procedure. The policy should be formally reviewed at least every 12 months by the company's board of directors. It should also be reviewed following legislative changes, company structural changes, or when any new materials, plant, or technology is introduced into your business. All right. The directors should consider alterations and amendments which become essential between review dates. So as you can see here, the overall final responsibility for health and safety in company name is that of the company board of directors. Now, as you can see here where it says company name with a percentage sign before that and after it, similar with the health and safety director's name, when you click print, this is already going to be pulled in with the information you have under the project details. So make sure the project detail information is correct the first time you go through your health and safety policy. That way, then everything is going to be updated. Okay. And then there's something for you to sign and date at the very bottom. From there, you then have responsibilities and duties. And as you can see, we have the managing director, the contract manager, site manager, contractors, and employees. All right. Luxury here is that if I click managing director, it even has something saying click to edit underneath. One left click, And then this box comes up and it's the organizational structure. So we have the managing director and what the managing director's duties are within the business. Okay, similar with contracts manager, site manager, what the contract's responsibilities are and what the employee's responsibilities are. Now, what you can do is that if you had someone else and the site managers, what you can do is you can then go add subordinate or add co-worker. And then you have a new member, you can pop in their details, you can give them an actual name if you wish, you can write their responsibilities, you can give them a subordinate if you like, and then what you can do is you can then build something quite spectacular. The luxury of that is, yes, I want to delete and I want to delete. What you can have here is the managing director, then you have the contracts manager, and you can then link this into your own business as well. Okay, not just for health and safety on a construction site, but it gives you a nice idea of how the structure in your business works. So you can use this just to go, right, okay, then I need to add a co-worker to my contracts managers because now we want to be looking at the office team. And we want to add a couple of people underneath that. We can come back to the new member. We can add another co-worker and we can add another couple of subordinates. And then what you've done is you can then build a tree up of your business to know that who needs to deal with what, when, where, and how, who's in charge of everything, really. Click cancel. If you want to delete everything, it's absolutely fine, and then it goes back to your standard. Okay, and then you have the company's duties as well, and it goes through all those details. All right, and then what we can do is we can then move on to the pre-construction information. Now, we've just gone through the project details, we've just gone through the health and safety policy. Does anybody have any questions at this moment in time? I'll give you a moment, maybe to wait for the 16 to get to a 17 on your minutes tab. Okay, give you a moment to ask any questions if you have any. The luxury of this is quite self-explanatory, so it's it usually answers quite a few of your questions as we go along. And we've got 17, brilliant. Okay, no questions yet. So pre-construction information, and then we've got the construction phase plan. Where and how are you going to be using these? I hear you ask through your monitors. So the pre-construction information, this is going to be for more your larger sites. Okay, you still have to provide a construction phase plan on every job that you do, but this details certain aspects of the build that the pre-construction information won't bother looking at. Okay, so under the pre-construction information, you're then going to be looking at the project description, including the client brief, any key dates, that could be deliveries, breaking ground, whatever you're doing, proposed use of the structure, existing records or plans, and then again, that client brief. Okay. Now, the pre-construction information is actually usually helped with by the architect, okay, because they'll have a lot of information that you can use to help fill this out, including existing records or plans. Now, the benefit of our software is, and the HSE enjoy it as well, we've got an image attachment option down at the bottom of the page. Okay, so an image can explain 1,000 words. This could be from risks, this could be from cost, this could be just existing records of plans. You don't want to start typing in X, Y, and Z. Drag in all the information that you want down here, and it's going to be part of your health and safety documentation. Okay. Part 2, clients' considerations and management requirements. Planning and managing the project, including health and safety goals. Communication and liaison between clients and others. This could be mobile phone, this could be email. Just pop in the details, write it down there. Site security. Are you going to have a man with a dog? Is it going to be a fence? Depending on how you want to deal with site security. Welfare provisions, self-explanatory again, hot and cold water, toilets on site, site hoarding requirements. Are you going to have a cabin? Is it going to be a steel container that you're going to hide your details in? Site transport arrangements and vehicle movement restrictions. This could be if you're working on a commercial site, given to you in a plan, and then you could just drag that plan, pop it in here, and then you could just reference 2.6. Okay. Client perimeter work systems, any fire precautions, emergency procedures and means of escape, areas designated as confined spaces, smoking and parking restrictions, COVID-19 vulnerable groups. As I said, this is a lot of information that if you're working on a commercial site would be sent over to you, or this should be detailed by the architect, especially areas designated as confined spaces, and then emergency procedures and means of escape. They should be able to give you, okay, then in their documentation, in their health and safety, they should be able to give you an idea of what to do. Okay, you can then use that, elaborate, build on it, do it yourself, but they should be able to provide you with this as well. We then have boundaries and access, restrictions on deliveries, waste collection and storage, adjacent land usage, existing storage of hazardous materials, because you want to know if you're going to be going into, say, a warehouse, again, commercial site, if there have been toxic gases or flammable gases used in any of the rooms, the last thing you want are your guys going in there with disc cutters, because you can just light the place up. Okay. Location of existing services, that should be on a diagram for you. Again, just drag it in here. Okay. Ground conditions, underground structures and watercourses. A nice drag and drop again. Existing structures, previous structural modifications, fire damage, ground shrinkage, movement or poor maintenance. If you're going to be doing any insurance work, this is going to be relevant. Difficulties relating to plant and equipment in the premises. Can I get a crane, or am I going to need a genie lift? Something like that. Health and safety information contained in earlier design, construction, or as-built drawings. Linking into your architect. Asbestos including survey results. Contaminated land including survey results. Existing structures containing hazardous materials. Health risks arising from the client's activities. Relevant information from an existing health and safety file. So this last point here, relevant information from an existing health and safety file, you have a health and safety file in this software package. Okay. Essentially what it is are a description of the work carried out, hazards that have not been eliminated through the design and construction processes, key structural principles, hazardous materials that have been used, information regarding the removal or dismantling of installed plant and equipment, health and safety information about equipment provided for cleaning or maintaining the structure, the nature, location and markings of significant services, information and as-built drawings of the building, its plant and equipment. Okay, this is just information that you fill out and you hand it over to the next guy that's going to be going in after you. Okay, usually again, you used on commercial sites if you are part of a team going through those processes. Okay, but it's still becoming more and more common. It's not a legal obligation to provide this to your client, okay? Because to be honest with you, we're presuming that you're going to be the builder that's going to go in and finish. There's not going to be any builders going in after you, okay? Unless you know of that, then you would have to provide one, okay? So that's your pre-construction information right there. And as you can see, there's a lot of drag and drops that you can use, which is quite handy. I'm just going to jump over risk assessments, cost assessments, method statements right now and jump straight into the construction phase plan. And I'll show you what the differences are between the two. So construction phase plan, as you can see, the first 5 boxes are pretty much identical. So project description, key dates, existing structures, ground conditions, existing traffic systems, working restrictions, including any additional COVID-19 measures. Okay, there was a 6th one and not a 5th one. All right. We then have that management structure that's been pulled in from the designated health and safety policy. So that's already detailed for you straight away. We then have management of the works. And again, as you can see, we've done a lot of writing for you. Unlike the pre-construction information, which are all pretty much empty except for one in here, okay? The pre-construction information, we've done a lot of the writing. So the work should be carried out at all times in accordance with the company health and safety policy and amongst others, the following legislation. Now, I'm not going to read all these out, obviously, because you'd go to sleep, but you can see that we've detailed everything for you, so you don't have to worry about it, okay? Monitoring and reviewing. The site manager, supervisor and or site foreman, as part of their line management responsibilities, will inspect the site on a daily basis using Form HS24, site inspection, or HS25, site audit. All other site employees will be briefed to show vigilance with regard to general health and safety issues through the induction procedures. Now, Form HS24 and Form HS25 can all be found under your management documentations here. So if I were to go and click this item here, and we'll see a couple at the very end as well. Here we go, HS24, HS25. What I can do is I can just come down. Then we have our site inspection checklist and we have our site audit. Okay, and as you can see, we have all this information that we can then use. We can then see the page layout, single page, 2 pages, wrap pages. We can export this, we can add anything to it. It's entirely up to us. Okay, we can even preview in the top left-hand corner. So this is what it's going to look like, but you'll have your company logo at the very top. You can even add in your own health and safety documentation if you wish. Okay, we can do that as well if we want. Back to the construction phase plan. From there, we then have liaison between parties on site, consultation with the workforce, the exchange of design information, handling design changes during the project, best practice, what we and the HSE would recommend you do, selection and control of contractors, the exchange of health and safety information between contractors, site security, suitable and sufficient measures will be taken to exclude unauthorized visitors from the site and to regulate and control all site visitors. Site-specific risk assessments will determine the most appropriate measures required. As you can see, a boffin that loves jargon wrote that sentence for you so you don't have to, okay? And luckily, that's all the information that you need to provide, and plus, obviously, what you're going to use, whether it's going to be fence, man with a dog, 50 caliber rifle, we don't know. Just make sure that some idiot doesn't walk on your site and hurt themselves, really. That's what we want at the end of the day. From there, we've then got site induction, on-site training, welfare facilities as well, how we're going to be dealing with those, so production and approval of risk assessments and written systems of work, the reporting and investigation of accidents and incidents, including near misses, how to deal with first aid, site rules, fire and emergency procedures as well. Now, there's one thing that I didn't show you on the main page before we actually created this job, was actually we work with a company that provide health and safety courses. Okay, so that's first aid on site, management on site, dealing with cost assessments, risk assessments, how to deal with fire. Okay, so you can do those, you can get qualifications online. I think they're about £20, £25 each if you want to put a guy on. Okay, and they can take it as many times as they like until they pass. All right, so you have that access if you need it. From there, we then have contact names. Okay, so we have the client, principal designer, the principal contractor. As you can see, this has all been pulled in from the project details from the very beginning. We then have additional designers, additional contractors, if they're necessary. Okay. Local authority. Again, I can click this drop-down box. We've got Midlothian Council, Norwich Council, Plymouth and Bristol, but we could say, right, okay, we're actually using Kent, for example. So we have HSE Kent here. I can click this little man on the right-hand side, this little icon, and then I can just come down and find the one relevant to Kent. The likelihood is Kent is not going to be here because these seem more towns than... Oh, no, we've got Kent County Council. Look at that. Brilliant. So there we have it. County Hall, Maidstone, Kent, ME141XQ. So I can select that one there, click OK, and that one's been pulled in for us as well. Okay. Environment Agency. Again, it's just going to be a select add in there. We've got all the relevant information for you, so you don't have to worry about it too much. Beneath that, you then have gas, electricity, water, telecommunications, cable and wireless, and traffic control. Traffic control, obviously, if you're going to be shutting off any roads, who's going to be dealing with that? Okay, just pop in their details there. So if anybody does come up and ask you what's going on, you can give it to the relevant person that has to deal with that. Gas, electricity, and water, your insurance as a business doesn't cover going through, say, a gas main between the street and the actual gas meter. As you would probably know, if you deal with plumbing and heating, their insurance covers it from the meter into the house. Otherwise, it's provided by this their supplier at the end of the day. So it's just better to make sure that you have that gas company written down, the electricity written down, and the water written down. That way, then if anything does go wrong, if you happen to go through a pipe, cable, or gas main, call the relevant guys and they'll come out and they'll fix it. Okay, try not to do it yourself. Fire, hospital, and police, quite self-explanatory. This one, if anything catches a light, you want to know where the nearest fire station is. Hospital, if anybody gets hurt, where the nearest hospital is. Police, if anything gets stolen or if anything does happen on site, you want to know where the nearest police station is for your benefit. Okay. Delivery and removal of materials and equipment, best practice, what should you do? Dealing with services. Adjacent land usage, as you can see, the software can't see where you're working, so you're going to have to fill this one in yourself. Okay. Stability of structures whilst carrying out construction work, including temporary structures and existing unstable structures. Preventing falls, working with or near fragile materials, control of lifting operations, maintenance of plant and equipment, working on excavations and poor ground conditions, Work on or near water where there is a risk of drowning as well. Traffic routes and segregation of vehicles and pedestrians. Storage of materials and work equipment. Any other significant safety risks that the software can't pick up on that you might think, oh, this might be a risk as well. There could be, say, an electric junction box in their garden. And you're thinking, well, that's probably something that we don't really want to be playing around with or trucking water at. Okay, so you'd write that. Arrangements for controlling significant health risks. You go through a similar state of affairs. So asbestos, contaminated land, manual handling, use of hazardous substances, reducing noise and vibration, COVID-19. As you can see, that one's quite fun. Any other significant health risks as well. Okay, is there anything going to be damaging to you or your guys on site? And then it just gives you a brief information about how we're setting this out and the nature of the information. Okay, so that is your construction phase plan versus your pre-construction information. All right. Does anybody have any questions before I start showing you risk assessments, cost assessments, how we set out method statements, your toolbox talks, and your management documentation? Who knew health and safety could be so much fun? All right, 30 minutes in already. We'll give you a few more moments. I think that's enough time. All right, perfect. So your risk assessments, your cost assessments, and your method statements. 3 of the most important things you're going to be dealing with on site other than your management documentation. Okay, so firstly, risk assessments. So firstly, we have below are the risk assessments currently selected for your project. A risk assessment is a careful examination of what in your project could cause harm to people and the measures that can be taken to prevent accidents and ill health. You can add or delete risks at any time. Okay, so even if you delete it from this list, don't worry about it. You're not deleting it from the software. We won't allow you to do that. Okay, so thumbs up. So as you can see here, we've got quite a few risks that can go wrong when you pretty much cover all building options on a particular site. But if you want to see any one in particular, so what we could do is let's go for Portland cement to show you what's going to be happening if somebody decides to eat cement. Really, I think we should let natural selection take its course, but apparently that's too bad. Oh Christ, I'm never going to be able to find it now, am I? Let's go if we can find cement up at the top. Ooh. So we've got delivery and placement. Oh, typical. Look at that. I won't be able to find. Well, that shouldn't have happened. Right, okay, then let's just have a look at where that might be. We should have Portland cement in here. Typical, isn't it? The moment I say, yeah, it's going to be absolutely fine, I lose one. That's just typical. Pregnant employees. Hopefully you don't have them up a tower. I know why I can't find it under risk assessments, because it's not under a risk assessment, it's under a cost sheet. I knew one of you would tell me. You didn't, but I was hoping you were going to point it out. Okay, so let's go for excavations first, something that we all deal with. We'll come back to Portland cement in a moment. All right, so let's go up to where it says preview in the left-hand corner. Let's make this just a slight bit bigger. So excavation, something we all deal with when we're on site. Okay, so as you can see, all this information is going to be relevant to the job, and you'll have your company logo at the top. On the left, we have an activity, excavations. We then have a hazard. We have our risks, so collapse of unsupported excavations, falling into unfenced excavations, material or plant falling into excavation struck by excavator or other. This is a 2-pager or 3-pager actually, so don't worry, we do have more problems going on when it comes to services and contaminates as well. So to deal with these problems at the moment, we've got ladder access to be supported part of the excavation, planned provision and use of excavation support equipment by competent persons, warning signs, adequate fencing. Materials to be stockpiled at a suitable distance. Wheel stocks to be used to prevent plant or vehicles running over the edge. So if you're running at it with a wheelbarrow full of cement, you want it to be able to stop before the guy goes into that trench with the cement. Okay, then we have your pre-control risk ratings and your post-control risk ratings. So as you can see, we've got 1 star, 2 stars. We times those together to get this lovely number 36. And then we have this lovely number of 1. We want to get this number, post-control risk ratings, as low as we possibly can. Okay. Now, to have an idea of what these stars mean, we can go down to the bottom where it says exposure ratings and severity ratings. So exposure ratings, highly unlikely to continuous, and then severity ratings from trivial to multiple fatality. All right. And then we can see with excavations, depending on depth, you do have fatalities at the end of the day. Collapsed foundations or excavations can be dangerous to young people or old people, depending on how you want to go about it, really. After these are in place and after you've done your control measures, we've also given you an idea of what to look at as well. So we've got the inspection register to be completed as part of the CDM regulations. Okay, see risk assessments for temporary works. Also see risk assessments for falls, ladders, and confined spaces of work. So what we're doing is we're saying, look, you've got your excavation. You might need to deal with any of these as well, because you might have to be looking at something as big as this. Okay, or it might be a bigger foundation, something like that. But as I said, we are always trying to get this number as far down as we can. Sometimes we're just not going to be able to do that. Sometimes it's going to be 12, okay, because at the end of the day, if you're dealing with electricity, there's never going to be an assurance of safety. Okay, so there's always going to be that risk. If you want to know what that key looks like, I've got one that I created earlier, bit of a Blue Peter moment. So 1 second. As you can see, it's very professional. Okay, but what you can do is you've then got continuous to highly unlikely, from trivial to multiple fatality. Now, as you can see, that number 12 is the defining factor of it's the worst of the safest situations. Okay, and then you can see what's going to go and gather on and go further up the bad chain if we wanted to do that. Okay, and those are your risk assessments, something that you can sign, tick off, and date. Okay, now, the luxury is that you might be thinking, Christ, yeah, but my excavations are a little bit different to this. I need to add some more information. How do I do that? Do I have to write a brand new one out or what? No, you don't. Keep hours, okay, but then go up to the top where it says edit in the top left hand corner, click that, and then what we can do is you can see all of ours, and then you can start popping in your own hazards as well. Just go into all the information. You've even got a spell check in the bottom left hand corner as well, if you just want to make sure that all your spelling's correct if you wish. So you can do that if you want to as well. Okay, and you can do that where there are a lot of risks. I think there is, yeah, bomb threats in there as well, another large one. Okay, we want to make sure that we are covering you for that as well, just in case you dig into the floor and you find a World War II bomb that hasn't exploded yet, which has happened. Okay, so we've got that in there for you just in case. All right. From your risk assessments, we can then go into your cost assessments. And look at that, lo and behold, Portland cement. Brilliant. Okay, again, we can go up to the top where it says preview, and we can start going through our Portland cements. We have the substance, what its name is, what it's known as, related products as well, what it's used for, multiple suppliers as well. So we've got Blue Circle as an example. Okay. Application, hand, machine, indoor, outdoor. Do you use it with a brush or a spray? No, you don't. People at risk, the employees, other personnel, members of the public, should be none. Controlled ingredients, I'm going to come back to that one in a moment, but this is where we can just say, right, okay, then we're going to be using chemicals with our Portland cement today. Okay, and we have that in there as well. Hazards, what are the hazards that come with Portland cement? So we've got frequency, frequent on civil engineering sites, exposure limits highly unlikely to be reached, normal usage. Health risks, irritant to skin and eyes, may cause allergic or irritant contact dermatitis. PPE, footwear, gloves, overalls, goggles, you know, the correct items of PPE. Hazard classifications, it's an irritant, okay, just like your tax man. Assessment of risk, risk of serious damage to eyes. Normal use has no harmful effect on dry skin. Okay, risk increases when water is added or dust settles on damp skin. Okay, non-flammable, non-explosive. How to store it. So we've got spillage, storage, waste disposal, disposal of industrial waste. Okay, bags should be stacked in a safe and stable manner. Keep clear of ground. Keep in dry conditions when handling bags. Due regard should be given to manual handling regulations. Let's put my teeth back in. Second to last, first aid. What to do when it gets on your skin, in your eyes, if you breathe it in, if you eat it. Okay, do not induce vomiting. Wash out mouth with water, drink plenty of water, and seek medical advice. And then risk and safety phrases at the very end. Now, a risk and safety phrase, this is something that's come over from the US, all right? It's something that our HSC is picking up on. However, if there's nothing written in there, you don't have to worry about it, okay? We will update that when it's relevant to that particular material, okay? But right now, as you can see, Portland Cement doesn't need any risk or safety phrases. And again, something we can sign a date off to make sure that our guys have and are happy with that. And again, what we can do is we can edit, we can add information in, whatever we like, okay? Application, hazardous substances, and this is when I start coming back to the material and the chemicals. Okay, so what you have here is the substance. We click add, and then you have all the different chemicals that you could be coming up against. Okay, and as you can see, there are quite a few. All right, so when you're told to use a chemical with it, find the chemical, pop the information in, and then if I were to say select acetic acid, say, we've got the substance, CAS number, and then we've got the measurements as well. Okay, and how you're going to use it. And then I can come down, and that's now on my cost assessment. Perfect. Last but not least, before I go into Toolbox Talks, management documentation, and your views at the very end. Firstly, method statements. We have a couple of examples here for you. So as you can see, industrial roofing, brick paving, confined spaces, demolition of brick structure with asbestos cement sheet roof. Now, what we cannot do is write you a method statement. We can't see your site. We don't know what's going to be happening on your site. But what we've done is we've given you a step-by-step on what to fill in, how to fill in, and what you have to provide when it comes to a method statement. Okay, and as you can see, a method statement describes a specific safe working method which will be used to carry out the work. It gives details of how the work will be carried out and what health and safety issues and controls are involved. Method statements only need be completed when there are unforeseen, unplanned, or specialist activities on site which are not covered by relevant risk assessments. Method statements are site-specific, the content of which reflects the findings of the relevant risk assessment undertaken for this project. So as you can see, if it's something quite obscure, you write a method statement. Other than that, you use your risk assessments, you use your cost assessments, your quids in, all right? Whereas everybody used to think, Christ, I have to write a method statement for every job. You don't, okay? Because if you have your risk assessments that cover it, save yourself 20, 30 minutes writing this information. So what would we be going through if we were to go new? So we have the introduction, the description of the work, so the purpose of the work, scope, so give details of the type of scope of work being carried out, include working hours, sequence of operations, how will the work be carried out, duration, how long are you going to be working on it, and the completion criteria. How do you know that this method statement has then been dealt with? Okay, this problem on site. Luxury is, again, as you can see down here, image attachments. Brilliant. Add in photos of the situation. It's going to help you explain without having to write sentences and sentences. Okay? Just remember that is an option all the time. Surrounding areas. Pre-works preparation, to give details on any pre-works preparation that needs to be carried out. Access requirements. Licenses. Gas safe registrations and so on. Permit of work systems. Supervision, who are the supervisors, who are the competencies. Responsibilities for safety control and monitoring. Persons responsible, what are their duties? Personnel, contractors and subcontractors who are going to be dealing with this information. Training and experience, what are their training, what is their experience? Who's the client? Mrs. Julia Stern. So it's already been pulled in there for you. Nice and easy. Principal contractor, principal designers, demolition contractor, asbestos contractor, if applicable. Storage of materials, give details on any storage required for your materials. Plans and equipment, what requirements you have, what inspections are going to be made, and what operator training has your guy got. Hazards, list the hazards identified. Risk assessment, list risk assessments carried out and note where copies of these risk assessments are held. Live services, persons responsible. Cost assessments, noise assessments, risk to third parties. Environment, give details of waste handling, so how to deal with waste handling, dust and smoke, water, fuel oils. Risks of environmental contamination as well. First aid, who are the first aiders? First aid equipment, where it can be found. PPE, what's to be worn. Emergencies and incidents, so additional procedures, changes to standard procedures. Welfare facilities, methodology, state method of work for each phase. Building arrangements, so persons responsible, acknowledgement of that as well. Drawings and sketches, any other information that you might feel that is relevant to this particular job. Okay. And then what will happen is it will look something like this on the right hand side. As you can see, we go through every point, nice and easy from top to bottom. And when it comes to PPE, it's not sentences of so and so should be wearing X, Y, and Z to make sure that they don't inhale X, Y, and Z. You've just got to write respirators, high-vis jackets, gloves, safety footwear, eye protection, head protection. Keep it simple, okay? What's the old phrase? KISS, and it keep it simple, stupid. All right. That way, then at least you know that the person reading it hasn't got to try and decipher what you're writing down. If you keep it in bullet point formats, makes life a whole lot easier. Okay. And then we go on to the Toolbox Talks and the management documentation, and then finally your views. Does anybody have any questions up to this point here? If it helps, we're going to be done in about 5-10 minutes, so it's and nobody's left yet either, which is brilliant. Give it a few more moments. Perfect. Okay, so finally, Toolbox Talks, management documentation. Let's go with management documentation first. So this is going to be your site attendance register. So get you guys to date it when they're on site, name, company if they're going to be subcontractors, vehicle registrations, time in, time out. Make sure that this is all documented. That way then you know your guys who's on and who's off, especially if the HSE do come walking by and say, look, by the way, I do want to know who's on your site at this particular time. Is this correct? Am I going to find anybody else on this site? And hopefully they shouldn't. Okay. Acknowledgement of risk assessments. So in the name, the CSCS registration number, signature, company, and date. Again, just get you guys to read the risk assessments that you've delivered, get them to sign it, get them to date it. Now, it's not your responsibility to watch them read it. It's your responsibility to, if you're going to be on site, to get them to sign this. Okay, because at the end of the day, the reason there are risk assessments, cost assessments, site induction registers is because compared to 15, 20, 30 years ago, health and safety's changed astronomically, okay, and people are foolish on site, especially when the boss isn't around, okay, and the problem is that if they're foolish and you're not around and they injure themselves and you don't have their signatures and you can see that they haven't read these risk assessments, then you're going to be in a world of trouble. Then it's your problem. So if it's just like your terms and conditions with buying a phone at the end of the day. If you're not going to read them and you just take, yes, I confirm these terms and conditions, anything goes wrong and they have a point in that terms and conditions, it's your fault because you never read them. Okay, same thing goes with the risk assessments. Hopefully you guys aren't going to be idiots on site, but getting the signature is probably one of the most important things you've got to do at the end of the day. And that sounds terrible to say, but let's be honest, that's black and white of it really. Site induction. So we then go through introduction, welcome, site details, welfare facilities, major risks and specific activities, accidents, attendance registers, and so on. Now, Again, you can edit this, you can add in whatever information that you want. This is what we've spoken to the HSE about and what they expect to be dealt with when it comes to a site induction, okay? But you might want to go through specifics of the particular site, so you can add things in there. You can even add in images as well, okay? And just to make sure that they have gone through that site induction, again, another signature. And you might be thinking, Christ, how many times does somebody have to write their name down? A couple, all right? Again, it makes you out to be safe. Asbestos work permits to the guy that really needs to be filling this out if they're going to be dealing with asbestos. Site setup checklists, noise assessments, how to deal with those. PPE registered, making sure that people have actually got the relevant PPE on if they're going to be going up, say, scaffolding. Okay. Harness inspections, relevant again to scaffolding. Lifting equipment, plant inspection, excavation inspection, scaffolding inspection, and so on. I know I've got friends that work at scaffolders, and at the end of the day, they usually say that with the amount of health and safety that are in place, they probably wouldn't be able to get out of the van, all right, to be able to do their job. But at the end of the day, just make sure that they're happy signing this to go, look, I'm confident going up this. I'm going to be wearing my hard hat. I'm going to be wearing my high vis, going to be wearing my boots. I'm going to be tied on. Because at the end of the day, last thing you want is the HSE walking by going, right, what are you doing up there? Come down here, we're going to shut the site down. And then you'll get a lovely letter from the HSE. And I think the first one they send you costs you about 500 quid. So again, it's something that you don't really want to be happening. Okay, site rules. What site rules are going to be in place? What site rules do you want them to abide by? But you're going to have a site manager that's going to help you deal with this as well. Fire plans, accident investigation reports, accident and incident reports as well. So if anybody does get hurt, you can write it up, make sure that it is written up as well. Toolbox talk registers, relevant to the topic or course that somebody needs to be trained in and feel competent in as well. And we'll go into those toolbox talks in a second. Site audit, site inspection checklist, and as I can say, these are dealt with daily. I know it looks like it's a lot of information, but you only have to fill in the relevant information that's going to be looked at. Okay, it's just mainly what these are, just make sure that things can't be tripped on, people can't hurt themselves if you're not on site, and if somebody's going in after you as well. Okay, so you just want to make sure that these things have been ticked off as well. Okay. Construction design and management, CDM regulations, introduction to clients' duties, domestic clients. This is just something that you can print off and just hand over and have on site as information. Breach of health and safety procedures, write them up if they are cocking about. Simple construction phase plan. As you know, we have the big one here. That's a lot of information. Well, we have a little one as well. And the little one is for little jobs. It's nice and simple, really. So you've got your name, your company, and all that information has been pulled in. Nice and easy. What is the job? Is there anything that the client has made you aware of? Where are the toilets, washing and rest facilities? It could be like downstairs, underneath the stairs, wherever they're going to be. Who else is on site? No one. I'm doing a couple of lights. I'm fitting a couple of radiators. Okay. Falls from site. Is it relevant? Collapse of excavations. Is it relevant? Collapse of structures. Is it relevant? Again, I'm just fill in the information as relevant to this job and keep it there. Nice and easy. And then we have plant and equipment, COVID-19 vaccination records, and then traffic management plans and so on down at the bottom. To the left of the management documentation, we then have Toolbox Talks. Okay, and these cover everything from, as you can see, health on the site to mental awareness on site as well. So we can start looking at health and safety benefits, powers of the HSE. What power does the HSE have on a particular site? What can they do and what right do they have to be able to come on your site and shut you down? Something that you could be able to have a conversation with somebody on site, because sometimes if they've gone through the risk assessments and they signed off on it, cost assessment signed off on it, scaffolding inspection, everything, they've signed everything and they've still decided to cock about. Okay, the luxury is that you've got all the information, you followed all your steps to be able to go, right, okay, then I've signed everything, they've said that they were going to be doing everything for me. Then the HSE won't be looking at you as a business, they'd be looking at them as a trade, okay, or a tradesman, as it were. And that's when the shift changes. And if anybody is cocking about like that, to be honest with you, that's what you want. Okay, you want it to be on the person that's cocking about, not you as the business. Okay, so this is a good one to go through with you guys. Competence, young persons on site, how to deal with, say, people going on work experience or trainees. Okay, control of substances hazardous to health, so your COSH. First aid, personal protective equipment. So what is PPE? What does it stand for? What are its limitations? What are your employer must do, which you should do for your guys on site, but then what you must do as the builder. Okay, and as you can see, we can go on and go through quite a few. Everything from safety nets and suspension equipment, what relevance do they have? Wells disease, needle stick injuries, pollution control, safety signs, company health and safety policies, workplace stress and mental health. Okay, what is stress? Why is reducing stress important? Signs of stress. Now, I like this one. To be honest with you, I shouldn't say I like this one, but it's quite funny, this one, but it says signs of stress: inability to sleep, regular headache, short temper, mood swings. Your typical boss, let's be honest. At the end of the day, he's running a business. If he doesn't have this, I don't think he's running his business well enough, to be honest. Okay, difficulty concentrating, feeling tense or anxious, losing interest in things you normally enjoy. That's when you start thinking that excessive drinking and drug use, absolutely, that's a red flag. Low self-esteem and so on. Signs to look out for, and stress and a colleague, advise your manager as well. Okay, so these are things at least it's prompting guys to be able to go, look, is Gary feeling himself? No, he's not. All right, let's have a chat. Let's have a talk. Okay, because let's be honest with you, working on site, it's one of those things. There's a stigma to say that guys on site should be always hard and everything like that, and we don't really look after one another. But at the end of the day, it's a bit of a lie. We do know each other quite well, and we do know when things are up. So again, it's just to be able to go, look, it's okay to just pull somebody aside and just have a chat with them. Diamond blades, wildlife, storage of materials, water efficiency and energy, COVID-19, tool hygiene and reducing spread of COVID-19. Again, diamond blades, this is a good one. Injury causes, risks and hazard, controls and precautions. I remember when I was on site for my old man in Cardiff, told me to clean a shovel that was covered in concrete with a disc cutter. That was nice, so I had to shave the shovel. That was news to me. All fun and games. Okay, and last but not least, as we've seen the health and safety file, we've got the views. Now, the views are relevant to which version of the software that you would like to have. So we've got the Plus and we've got the Premium. Okay, now the Plus doesn't come with this tab, but the Premium does. Okay, and what that offers you are something called views. Now, the views are going to tell you when you have to use the documentation and what relevant documentation throughout your job. Okay, so you've got plan, so that's your policy, doom, risk profiling, checking, so measuring performance, acting, review performance, learning lessons, and then you go around again and again and again. So the plan, do, check, act approach is something that's used by essentially every industry now, okay? And it's something that you constantly build upon to make sure that you just get better and better with time, okay? The table view, so the HSG65 plan, these are the options that you'll be using under that planning stage. The doing stage, this is going to be more your cost assessments, your risk assessments, your management documentations, your checking, management documentations, and your acting, more management documentation. Okay, so we've just given you a guide to be able to use them where relevant. Okay, construction stage view. This is going to say, okay, then day 0, what do you need to do day before? Okay, let's make sure that this information is correct. Pre-construction, what do we do then? Construction phase, what do we do then? Reviewing, what do we do then? So it's nice and easy. All that information is there for you to be able to use. It's going to be relevant to the job that you brought in or you've created. As you can see, we've got everything in there because we've said we're going to do everything. You wouldn't have all of this to look at. All right. And then lastly, you've got Gantt View. And again, this is going to be relevant to had you imported a job from Estimator Express. Okay, it's going to go demolition, drains, erect scaffolding, and the things on the right hand side is going to give you the relevant risks that can be dealt with when it comes to these items. So we've got demolition here, we've got excavations, bulldozers, but if I start going through to say electrics, let's go electric first fix or second fix even. As you can see, bulldozers and excavations are not in that. For the obvious reason, if you're using a bulldozer on your second fix of electrical, that's probably because you've cocked up somewhere. Okay, so this is found in your premium version of the software. And that, everyone, is our health and safety software. Does anybody have any questions? I know I've been talking for a good hour now. I've lost my teeth a few times as well. Okay, but here's your time to actually ask away. And yeah, really, all I can do is say thank you for attending before we leave. Great. Well, to those that do want to be contacted tomorrow, what I will do is I'll give you a call, we'll chase up, and then we'll have a discussion about costs, pricing, if you want to go ahead with it. I know that a lot of you, there are a few users here as well. So if you do need any help, just give the technical team a call. We'll be able to help you with this. It's not a problem at all. But guys, all I can say is thank you so much for attending this evening. I hope you've learned as much as you can, really, with me waffling on. I know hearing the West Country voice for an hour is probably a bit of a head shaker, but we are here to help you out. We have had a question come in though. But yeah, this is what we're here for. If you want to have a one-to-one as well, we can go into even more detail again. Okay, but guys, thank you so much for your time this evening. I'm going to let you crack on, probably have your teas, chill out, wind down. This was a lot of legislation that you've probably just looked at over the last hour, and especially after work, so I can't thank you enough for attending. So ta-da, take care. I really appreciate it, and good night.